Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the strange vessel that had appeared 3 days ago. The alien ship was beautiful and shiny, like polished silver floating in space. It called itself the Harmony's Voice and belonged to something called the Galactic Council. "They want to meet us at Kepler Station," said Lisa Park, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly across the glowing controls. "They say it's for peace talks. They want to discuss how humans can join their galactic community." Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on the main screen from Earth Command. Her face looked tired and worried. She had been a soldier for many years and knew when something felt wrong. "Jake, I don't trust this," Stone said. 3 different alien groups working together. The Thaxari, the Veltar, and the Zephyrians have been enemies for centuries. Now they suddenly want to be friends and help humanity. Something is not right, Morrison nodded. He had been reading the intelligence reports for months. Humanity had spread to 12 different star systems very quickly. This had made the older alien civilizations nervous. They were not used to new species expanding so fast. What the aliens did not know was that Earth had been preparing for this day since humans first learned about other species in space. Every human ship, every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement had been carefully planned as part of a much bigger strategy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked up to Morrison with her tablet computer. She was the mission's chief strategist and one of the smartest people on Earth. "Captain, our science teams have studied 17 different alien species that will be at these talks," she said. "Each one fights differently and thinks differently. But they all have one thing in common. They have never met a species like humans before." Rodriguez continued reading from her tablet. "Most aliens evolved on peaceful worlds. Their planets had few predators and plenty of food. They learned to cooperate because they had to. But Earth was different. Earth was dangerous." Morrison understood what she meant. Earth was what scientists called a death world. Most creatures that lived there died before they could develop intelligence. Only the strongest and smartest survived. Humans were the descendants of hunters who had learned to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. The alien ship sent another message. It was an invitation to Kepler Station, a neutral meeting place built in empty space. The message talked about peace and friendship and working together for the good of the galaxy. "They think we're naive," Morrison said with a small smile. "They think humans are just another young species that can be bullied into submission." Lisa Park looked up from her controls. "Sir, they're requesting that we bring only a small delegation. No more than 3 ships and minimal weapons. They say it's to show good faith." Morrison laughed quietly. Good faith. The aliens had no idea that every human ship looked peaceful on the outside, but carried enough hidden weapons to destroy a small moon. They did not know that every diplomat had been trained as a soldier. They did not understand that when humans talked about peace, they always prepared for war. "Tell them we accept," Morrison said. "We'll bring our finest diplomats to discuss joining their galactic community." As the ship changed course toward Kepler Station, Morrison thought about the real mission. Ambassador Maria Santos would lead the talks. She was charming and intelligent and made people feel comfortable. Dr. Carl Bennett would come as a cultural expert, but he was really a military analyst studying alien weaknesses. Colonel Sam Hughes would provide security, though his real job was much more dangerous. The aliens thought they were meeting with peaceful humans who wanted to make friends. They had no idea they were about to face the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever produced. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing human positions throughout the galaxy. Hidden weapons platforms disguised as research stations, military ships pretending to be cargo vessels, entire fleets waiting in dark space between the stars. Operation Checkmate had been planned for 5 years. Every human colony, every space station, every ship had been positioned for this moment. The aliens thought they were negotiating with a weak new species. They were actually walking into a trap. Dr. Rodriguez showed Morrison the latest reports from the intelligence division. "Sir, we've been monitoring alien communications for months. They've been planning this meeting as a way to force humanity into submission. If we refuse their terms, they're prepared to use military force." Morrison was not surprised. Throughout history, older civilizations had always tried to control younger ones. The strong bullied the weak. The established powers crushed anyone who might challenge them. It was the natural order of things. But humans had learned something different on Earth. They had learned that sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted, sometimes the predator becomes the prey, and sometimes the species that looks weakest turns out to be the most dangerous. How many ships do they have positioned around our colonies? Morrison asked. Intelligence estimates 300 vessels spread across 12 systems, Rodriguez replied. They think it's overwhelming force. Morrison smiled again. 300 ships sounded like a lot. But the aliens did not know about the 1,000 human vessels hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. They did not know about the automated defense platforms disguised as space debris. They did not know that every human civilian ship could transform into a warship in minutes. The journey to Kepler Station would take 3 days. 3 days for the aliens to feel confident about their superiority. 3 days for them to plan humanity's subjugation. 3 days for them to make their biggest mistake. As Morrison watched the stars pass by, he thought about Earth's history. Humans had always been outnumbered. They had always faced enemies with bigger teeth, stronger claws, or better armor. But humans had survived because they were smarter. They planned ahead. They prepared for every possibility. The aliens were about to learn why humanity had spread across 12 star systems in just 50 years. They were about to discover why no predator on Earth had ever successfully hunted humans to extinction. The galaxy was about to meet its new apex predators, and they had come to the negotiations dressed as diplomats. Kepler Station was massive. It floated in space around a dead planet, built to house many different types of aliens who breathed different air and needed different temperatures. As the 3 human ships docked, alien observers noted how small they looked compared to the huge warships of the established powers. Ambassador Maria Santos led the human group into the main meeting room. She walked calmly and smiled at everyone, looking relaxed and friendly. Behind her came Dr. Carl Bennett, who was supposed to be a cultural expert, and Colonel Sam Hughes, listed as a security advisor. The alien delegates were impressive and intimidating. The Thaxari delegation was led by War Prime Thaklon, a giant insect-like creature whose shell armor gleamed with ceremonial decorations. He stood over 8 feet tall and his mandibles clicked menacingly when he spoke. The Veltar sent High Counselor Yarix, whose body was made of living crystal that bent light into beautiful rainbow patterns. The crystal being floated slightly above the ground and pulsed with different colors depending on its mood. The Zephyrian representative was Fleet Singer Morden, a gaseous creature that lived inside a special container filled with its native atmosphere. The gas swirled and changed colors as it communicated through chemical releases. Humans of Earth, said Thaklon through his translator device. We welcome you to the civilized galaxy. Your rapid expansion into space has been noticed by all the major powers. We offer you membership in our alliance, with proper territorial limits and technology restrictions for the greater good of all species. Santos smiled warmly and activated her own translation system. We are honored by your invitation. Humanity has always valued peaceful cooperation with other species. She gestured to her small group. We have brought our finest diplomats, scientists, and cultural specialists to discuss how we might work together. What the aliens could not detect were the tiny quantum communicators built into each human's brain implants. They could not see the molecular machines disguised as jewelry. They had no idea that Colonel Hughes's dress uniform contained enough nanotechnology to destroy a city. As the first day of negotiations began, the alien powers presented their terms. Humanity would be given protected status within a reservation of only 3 star systems. Human faster-than-light technology would be controlled and regulated. Human military forces would be limited to defending their home systems only. These terms seem quite reasonable, Santos replied diplomatically. We will need time to study them carefully and consult with our government on Earth. The aliens seemed pleased with this response. They thought the humans were impressed by their generosity and would accept the limitations gratefully. Meanwhile, across human space, Admiral Tony Clark was receiving real-time updates from the negotiations through quantum communication channels. The activation codes for Operation Checkmate were already loaded into every human military vessel, hidden colony ship, and deep space construction platform. On the second day, High Counselor Yarix presented humanity with examples of other species that had joined the galactic community. Each example showed the same pattern. Young civilizations were offered protection and membership in exchange for accepting strict limits on their growth and development. The Cortani people were much like humans, Yarix explained, its crystal body glowing soft blue. They expanded rapidly and developed dangerous technologies. We helped them understand the wisdom of restraint. Now they live peacefully on their assigned worlds. Dr. Bennett asked careful questions about the Cortani. What had happened to their space fleet? Why were their colonies abandoned? Where were their scientists and engineers now? The answers painted a clear picture. The Cortani had been systematically weakened and controlled. Their best minds had been relocated to work for the galactic powers. Their military had been disbanded. Their people had been reduced to a client state with no real independence. Santos continued to smile and ask polite questions, but her brain implant was recording every detail. The galactic powers were not offering partnership. They were demanding surrender with better public relations. On the third day, Fleet Singer Morden began to show impatience. The gaseous alien's container swirled with angry red clouds as it spoke. The generosity of the galactic powers is not unlimited, it said through chemical releases that the translator converted to speech. Other young species have learned the benefits of cooperation. Those who chose to remain isolated found the galaxy to be a dangerous place. Colonel Hughes stepped forward slightly. His enhanced vision could detect the quantum signatures of hidden weapons throughout the station. Energy weapons built into the walls. Armed security forces positioned at every exit. Combat drones concealed in the ventilation systems. What kind of dangers? Hughes asked innocently. War Prime Thaclon's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Pirates attack undefended colonies. Navigation computers suffer mysterious failures. Supply shipments are delayed or lost. Many unfortunate accidents can happen to species that refuse galactic protection. The threat was clear but spoken politely. Join the Galactic Alliance or face systematic harassment and eventual destruction. Santos maintained her diplomatic smile, but her quantum communicator was already sending priority signals to human fleets throughout the galaxy. The aliens had revealed their true nature. The negotiations were not about peace. They were about conquest disguised as diplomacy. I see, Santos said softly. So membership in your alliance is not really optional. Thaclon rose to his full intimidating height. His armor plates shifted and his weapons harnesses became visible. Your species will accept integration into the galactic community, or you will face the consequences of defying the natural order. The combined fleets of 3 galactic powers are already positioned around your colonies. Choose wisely, humans. Around the conference table, the other alien delegates revealed their true faces. Diplomatic masks fell away to show predators who had grown fat on the submission of weaker species. They had done this dozens of times before. Young civilizations always submitted when faced with overwhelming force. But as Santos looked around the table, she was not afraid. Instead, she felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens had just made their final mistake. They had revealed their hand too early. Santos stood slowly, her diplomatic facade finally falling away. When she spoke again, her voice carried the quiet confidence of a species that had never been successfully domesticated. War Prime Thaclon. High Counselor Yarrick's Fleet Singer Morden, she said calmly. I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about this meeting. Her neural implant sent a single encrypted message across the galaxy. Execute checkmate. You seem to think humanity came here to surrender. The conference room erupted into chaos as alien security forces burst through the sealed doors, but they found only empty air where the human delegation had been standing moments before. Advanced teleportation technology, hidden in simple belt buckles, had transported the humans to safety aboard their ships. Admiral Patricia Stone's voice echoed through the bridge of the horizon as red emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. All human vessels, this is Stone. The talks have failed as we predicted. Execute Operation Checkmate. Show them what Earth's children learned in the darkness between the stars. Throughout the Kepler system, what had appeared to be 3 modest human diplomatic vessels began an incredible transformation. Outer hulls split open like flower petals to reveal massive weapon arrays hidden inside. False cargo pods ejected from the ships to unveil entire squadrons of fighter craft. The innocent-looking vessels tripled in size as their concealed sections deployed like deadly origami. War Prime. Thaclon watched in growing horror from Kepler Station's command center as his supposedly superior fleet found itself completely surrounded. The humans had not just hidden their weapons, they had hidden entire battle groups in plain sight. This is impossible, he chittered through his translator. Our sensors detected only 3 civilian vessels. Where did these warships come from? Captain Jake Morrison's image appeared on every screen throughout the station. Behind him, the bridge of the horizon hummed with deadly efficiency as his crew prepared for combat. Humans moved with practiced precision, each one knowing exactly what to do. War Prime Thacklon, Morrison's voice was calm and conversational, like he was discussing the weather. You made a critical error in your intelligence gathering. You studied our technology, our expansion rate, and our diplomatic protocols, but you never bothered to study what kind of world produces a species like humanity. On the tactical displays throughout the alien fleet, their formation was dissolving into chaos as human vessels emerged from hyperspace at impossible angles. Ships that the aliens had assumed were light cruisers revealed themselves as heavy battleships. Mining equipment transformed into automated weapon platforms. Earth, Morrison continued as alien crews scrambled to respond to threats appearing from every direction, is classified as a Class 12 death world. 96% of all species that evolve there go extinct before they achieve spaceflight. The remaining 4% become apex predators. The alien fleet commanders tried to coordinate a response, but their communications were being jammed by signals they could not trace or block. Every order they gave was intercepted and countered before they could act on it. High Counselor Yarix's crystalline form had shifted from confident blue to panic white. This cannot be happening. Our intelligence reports indicated that humans preferred peaceful solutions to conflicts. Colonel Hughes materialized on the station's bridge through emergency teleportation, his diplomatic clothing replaced by full combat armor that seemed to absorb light. The alien guards raised their weapons, but the guns simply refused to fire. Their targeting systems had been compromised by nanomachines released during the diplomatic meals. We do prefer peace, Hughes said as he disarmed the nearest Thaxari warrior with casual efficiency. But we never go anywhere without the ability to enforce it. You see, there is something else you should have learned about human culture before you threatened us. Throughout the system, alien crews watched their ship systems fail one by one. Computer viruses disguised as cultural exchange files and diplomatic gifts had been infiltrating their networks for 3 days. Every shared meal, every cultural artifact, every friendly gesture had been a delivery system for human technology. The aliens had been so focused on seeming superior that they had not noticed. They were being systematically compromised from within. We have an old saying from Earth, Hughes continued as alien security forces found themselves unable to communicate with their own ships. Speak softly and carry a big stick. The problem is you never bothered to look for the stick. Fleet Singer Mordun's gaseous form swirled with confused colors as its container's life support systems began to malfunction. You were supposed to be a primitive species. Your technology was decades behind ours. Dr. Bennett appeared on the alien communication channels, his friendly cultural expert persona replaced by something much more dangerous. That was the point. We wanted you to underestimate us. Every piece of technology we shared, every diplomatic gift we offered, every cultural exchange we participated in was designed to make you feel superior. Admiral Tony Clark's fleet materialized from behind the system's star, where they had been hiding in its magnetic shadow for weeks. 60 ships of the line emerged like ghosts, each one carrying weapons that made the alien dreadnoughts look like primitive clubs. The aliens finally understood the scope of their mistake. The humans had not come to negotiate. They had come to spring a trap that had been months in the making. Morrison's voice echoed through the system one final time, reaching every alien vessel simultaneously. To all alien vessels, power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved. Humanity will now discuss the terms of your surrender. War Prime Thacklon collapsed into his command chair as his supposedly invincible fleet found itself helpless. How is this possible? We are the dominant powers of the galaxy. We have ruled for thousands of years. Ambassador Santos appeared on his personal communication screen, her diplomatic smile replaced by something much colder. You ruled through fear and superior numbers. You bullied younger species into submission because you had bigger guns and more ships. But you made one critical mistake. Around Kepler Station, human boarding craft approached the alien vessels. The aliens' weapons would not fire, their shields would not activate, and their engines would not respond to commands. You assumed that a species' apparent technological level represented their actual capabilities, Santos continued. You thought that because our ships looked simple, we were simple. You believed that because we seemed peaceful, we were weak. The truth was finally becoming clear to the alien leadership. Every human colony, every trade mission, every cultural exchange had been part of an elaborate intelligence-gathering operation. The humans had studied their enemies for years while appearing harmless and naive. The reality, Santos said as human Marines began boarding alien ships throughout the system, is that Earth's children learned something your species never had to. We learned how to survive on a world that was constantly trying to kill us. We learned how to hunt creatures bigger and stronger than ourselves. We learned that the best way to win a fight is to make your enemy think there is no fight at all. High Counselor Yarix's crystal form pulsed with defeated gray light. What will you do with us? Morrison answered from his command chair as the last alien vessel surrendered. We are going to teach you what civilization actually means. But first, you are going to tell us about every species you have bullied, every civilization you have destroyed, and every crime you have committed in the name of galactic order. The Battle of Kepler Station was over before it had truly begun. The aliens' superior numbers meant nothing when their ships would not obey commands. Their advanced weapons were useless when they could not target their enemies. Humanity had won the war before the first shot was fired, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The alien fleets hung helpless in space around Kepler Station like broken toys. Their mighty warships, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, could not even turn on their engines. Human boarding parties moved through the vessels with mechanical efficiency, securing prisoners and gathering intelligence. War Prime Thaclon sat in his command chair, watching human soldiers move through his flagship. They were not cruel or violent. They simply took control of everything with the same calm professionalism they had shown during the negotiations. It was somehow more terrifying than if they had been savage conquerors. Status report. Admiral Patricia Stone requested from her position aboard the human command vessel. Captain Jake Morrison consulted his tactical display. All alien vessels secured. 0 human casualties. Enemy casualties minimal. Mostly injuries from their own crew panicking during the boarding operations. Their leadership is requesting to speak with our commander. Stone nodded grimly. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life, showing the 3 alien leaders in their respective detention areas. War Prime Thaclon's armor was cracked and his mandibles drooped with defeat. High Counselor Yarix's crystalline form had faded to a dull gray. Fleet Singer Morden's gaseous body swirled weakly in its containment unit. What do you want? Thaclon asked through his translator. You have won. Your trap was perfect. We underestimated your species completely. Stone studied the defeated alien commanders with the same expression she might use to examine insects under a microscope. What we want is very simple. We want the truth. All of it. Dr. Elena Rodriguez appeared on the screen beside Stone. She carried a data tablet loaded with preliminary intelligence gathered from the captured ships. We have been analyzing your computer systems for the past 6 hours. The information we have found is disturbing. The tablet's screen showed star charts marking dozens of systems in red. Each red marker represented a civilization that had been destroyed or enslaved by the Galactic Council over the past 500 years. 43 species completely extinct, Rodriguez read from her report. 17 more reduced to slave populations. 8 civilizations stripped of all technology and kept as primitive agricultural societies. The Galactic Council was not a peacekeeping organization. It was a protection racket on a galactic scale. High Counselor Yarix's form pulsed weakly. The galaxy required order. Chaos breeds chaos. Young species must be guided by those with wisdom and experience. Colonel Sam Hughes laughed harshly from his position in the alien detention center. He had been interrogating prisoners for hours and was not impressed by their justifications. Guided? Hughes said. Is that what you call systematic genocide? You wiped out entire civilizations because they refused to surrender their independence. You kept other species as slaves and called it protection. The human intelligence teams had been working around the clock to decode alien databases. The picture they painted was horrifying. The Galactic Council had maintained power through fear, manipulation, and overwhelming military force. Any species that showed potential for challenging their authority was eliminated. Fleet Singer Morden's gaseous form swirled with confused colors. You cannot understand the complexity of galactic governance. Some species are naturally suited for leadership. Others must be protected from their own destructive impulses. Ambassador Maria Santos joined the conversation from the diplomatic section of the station. She had been reviewing the historical records with growing disgust. Protected? Santos said coldly. The Heltari people developed faster than light travel 300 years ago. Your records show they were excited to join the galactic community.
What happened to them?
Silence from the alien leaders. I will tell you what happened, Santos continued. They were told their technology was too dangerous. They were forced to destroy their research. Their scientists were relocated to work for council species. Their colonies were limited to 3 star systems. Within 50 years, they had been reduced to a primitive agricultural society that exists only to grow food for their masters. Morrison accessed the intelligence files on his personal display. The pattern was always the same. Young species were invited to join the galactic community. They were offered protection and guidance. Then they were systematically weakened until they posed no threat to the established order. The Zeltani developed artificial intelligence, Morrison read from the files. You told them it was too dangerous and forced them to destroy it. The Corvani created new forms of energy generation. You classified it as a galactic security risk. The Pelthari discovered how to manipulate gravity. You decided it was beyond their primitive understanding. Each discovery that might have changed the balance of power in the galaxy had been suppressed. The council species hoarded advanced technology while keeping everyone else dependent and weak. War Prime Thaklan finally spoke, his voice hollow with defeat. What was the alternative? Allow chaos? Let every primitive species develop weapons that could destroy star systems? The strong must guide the weak. It is the natural order. Stone stood up from her command chair, her face hard as granite. The natural order? Let me tell you about the natural order where humans come from. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's evolutionary history, images of predators and prey locked in eternal struggle, creatures adapting, evolving, fighting for survival in an endless arms race. On Earth, the natural order meant that nothing stayed on top forever, Stone explained. The biggest predator could be brought down by something smaller and smarter. The strongest creature could be killed by something more adaptable. Survival went to those who could change, who could learn, who could overcome any challenge. The aliens watched the display with growing understanding. Earth's evolution had been driven by competition and constant change. Their worlds had been peaceful gardens where the strong ruled the weak for millions of years. Your galactic council was an evolutionary dead end, Stone continued. You stopped change. You prevented growth. You created a galaxy of stagnation where nothing new could develop. You turned a dynamic system into a static museum. Dr. Bennett joined the conversation from his analysis station. We have reviewed your technological development over the past 1,000 years. There has been almost no advancement. No new discoveries. No revolutionary breakthroughs. You achieved a certain level of technology and then stopped growing. The truth was devastating. While the council species had been maintaining their grip on power, they had also been slowly dying. Their civilizations had become rigid and unchanging. They had forgotten how to innovate, how to adapt, how to grow. Meanwhile, Bennett continued, in just 50 years, humanity went from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. We developed technologies you never imagined because we never stopped competing, never stopped trying to become better. Hughes added the final piece of the puzzle.
And we learned how to hide our capabilities because Earth taught
us that the deadliest predators are the ones their prey never see. Coming, the captured alien leaders finally understood the scope of their defeat. They had not just lost a battle. They had been completely outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. What happens now? High Counselor Yarix asked, its crystal form barely glowing. Admiral Stone smiled coldly. Now we clean up the mess you made. Every species you enslaved will be freed. Every civilization you destroyed will be restored if possible. Every crime you committed will be answered for. She leaned forward, her voice carrying the authority of Earth's new position as the galaxy's guardian. The age of the Galactic Council is over. The age of actual civilization is about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the galaxy was transforming in ways no one had imagined possible. The former conference chamber had been converted into a war crimes tribunal, where the leadership of the 3 former galactic powers faced judgment for centuries of oppression and genocide. Admiral Patricia Stone sat in the judge's chair, reviewing testimony from representatives of 47 different species. Each one told the same story of being bullied, threatened, and forced into submission by the so-called Galactic Council. "The evidence is overwhelming," Stone announced to the packed chamber. "The Thaxari Confederation, Veltar Empire, and Zephyrian Collective systematically suppressed technological development, restricted territorial expansion, and eliminated any species that refused to submit to their authority." War Prime Thaclon sat in his containment field, his once proud armor now marked with the scars of defeat. His mandibles barely moved as he spoke through the translator. "You cannot impose your primitive justice on civilized races. We brought order to chaos." Ambassador Maria Santos, now serving as Earth's first galactic administrator, smiled coldly from her position at the prosecutor's table. "Order? In the 6 months since humanity assumed administration of this galaxy, we have shared more technological advances than your council provided in 6 centuries." It was absolutely true. Human engineering teams had already begun upgrading the infrastructure of dozens of worlds. Medical technology that had been restricted to the ruling elite was now freely available to everyone. Faster-than-light communication networks connected previously isolated systems. Food production had increased dramatically with new agricultural techniques. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached the bench with her final report. She had spent months documenting the full scope of the Council's crimes. "Your Honor, our investigations have confirmed that the former Galactic Council artificially suppressed the evolution of 43 species through selective breeding programs, genetic manipulation, and controlled resource allocation." The report was devastating. The Council had not just conquered other species. They had deliberately prevented them from developing the intelligence and technology needed to challenge their authority. "They were literally breeding populations of slaves," Rodriguez continued, "keeping entire civilizations at whatever development level was most useful for their purposes." High Counselor Yarix's crystalline form pulsed with defeated gray light. "The natural order required management. Without guidance, primitive species destroy themselves. We prevented countless wars and disasters." Colonel Sam Hughes, now Director of Galactic Security, stood to address the court. He had been investigating the Council's methods for months and was disgusted by what he had found. "Your Honor, I would like to submit evidence of the natural order these defendants claim to have been protecting." The holographic display showed a series of worlds, dead systems where entire civilizations had been sterilized for refusing to submit. 43 species extinct, their only crime being the desire for self-determination. "The defendants claim they brought order to the galaxy," Hughes continued. "What they actually brought was a protection racket enforced by superior firepower. They ruled through fear, stagnation, and the systematic elimination of anyone who might challenge their authority." Captain Jake Morrison watched the proceedings from the observation deck, already planning humanity's next challenge. Rebuilding a galaxy would be the greatest project in human history. 47 species needed to learn how to be free again. Entire civilizations had to be restored from genetic records. Technologies that had been suppressed for centuries needed to be redeveloped. Behind him, Communications Officer Lisa Park was monitoring reports from across the galaxy as human relief fleets delivered aid to worlds that had been struggling. "Under alien oppression for centuries, Captain," she reported with satisfaction. "We are receiving thank you messages from 16 different species today. The Heltari people just re-established their first faster-than-light communication in 300 years. Morrison nodded, watching the stars that now looked to Earth for guidance rather than conquest. The transformation was happening faster than anyone had expected. When species were free to develop their full potential, they grew at an incredible rate. Judge Stone reviewed the evidence one final time. The verdict had never been in doubt. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable, but the sentence would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. War Prime Thaclon, High Counselor Yarix, Fleet Singer Morden, she announced formally. "You are found guilty of genocide, systematic oppression, and crimes against galactic civilization." The 3 leaders looked up, expecting execution or life imprisonment. However, Stone continued, "Humanity believes in rehabilitation over revenge. You will spend the remainder of your natural lives working to rebuild the civilizations you destroyed. Your knowledge, your resources, and your expertise will be dedicated to undoing the damage you have caused." The aliens looked surprised. They had expected to be killed for their crimes. "You will personally oversee the restoration of extinct species through genetic reconstruction programs," You will help rebuild the worlds you destroyed. You will teach the civilizations you oppressed how to reclaim their heritage and technology. Stone stood, her voice carrying the authority of Earth's new position as the galaxy's reluctant guardian. Let this be a lesson to any future tyrants. Humanity did not want to rule the galaxy. We were perfectly happy exploring our corner of space. But when you threatened our people and our freedom, you discovered something that should have terrified you. She gestured to the human delegates filling the chamber, scientists, engineers, diplomats, and soldiers who had spent their entire lives preparing for challenges they hoped would never come. You learned that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a species that loves war. It is a species that loves peace but is very, very good at war when necessary. The sentence was carried out immediately. The former council leaders were transported to restoration facilities, where they would spend their remaining years helping to undo the damage they had caused. It was a punishment that fit their crimes perfectly. In the months that followed, the galaxy continued to transform. The Heltari people redeveloped faster than light travel in just 6 months with human assistance. The Corvani created new energy sources that could power entire star systems. The Pelthari resumed their gravity manipulation research and made breakthroughs that revolutionized space travel. Dr. Bennett established the Galactic Development Council, which helped suppressed species reclaim their lost technologies and develop new ones. Unlike the old Galactic Council, this organization existed to help rather than control. The key, Bennett explained to a gathering of alien scientists, is that we do not limit what you can discover. We share our knowledge freely and learn from yours. Progress comes from cooperation, not domination. The transformation was not always smooth. Some species struggled to adapt to freedom after centuries of oppression. Others were afraid to develop new technologies, fearing that humans would suppress them as the Council had done. But gradually, trust was built. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists. Human teachers helped restore lost knowledge. Human soldiers protected developing civilizations from the few remaining Council loyalists who refused to accept the new order. Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, now serving as flagship of the Galactic Defense Force. His mission had changed from conquest to protection, but the skills were surprisingly similar. "Sir," Lisa Park reported, "we are receiving a distress signal from the Outer Rim. A group of Council loyalists is threatening the Deltari colonies." Morrison smiled grimly. "Set course for the Outer Rim. Time to remind some people that the old days are over." As the horizon jumped to hyperspace, Morrison reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy that had once been ruled by fear and oppression was learning to embrace freedom and cooperation. It would take generations to fully heal the damage, but the process had begun. Humanity had never wanted to inherit the galaxy. But now that they had it, they were determined to do the job right. They would teach the galaxy what true civilization looked like. They would show that strength came from lifting others up, not keeping them down. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of the human commonwealth had begun, and across 1,000 worlds, species that had forgotten what hope looked like were finally learning to dream again.